One of the most classic Castle Crashers glitches, which can give you an advantage in combat or skip entire levels and even allow you to explore areas that you've never seen before, the out of bounds glitch. Now there are many different ways to go out of bounds, but one thing will remain the same: teleports. When you go out of bounds, the game will try to fix things by teleporting you back inbound. However, if you are in a multiplayer game and all players are out of bounds, you will instead get teleported to your teammate's Y position rather than getting teleported back inbounds. Teleports will be turned off during cutscenes and then turned back on when the cutscene ends. But if you exit to map during the cutscene, teleports will stay turned off, allowing you to go out of bounds and stay out of bounds. Teleports are also turned off for the entire duration of parade and pirate ship levels and are turned back on as soon as you enter desert. So now that you know how teleports work, I'll show you all of the known ways you can go out of bounds, as well as all of the known ways to go off screen. So the first and one of the most common ways to go out of bounds is by no clip. Now there are two kinds of slopes: regular slopes and no clip slopes, and I bet you'll never guess which one is more broken. That's right, the no-clip slopes are more broken than the regular slopes because they allow you to go out of bounds. So to get no-clip, you will have to hold up your shield and move left and right at the top of a slope. You will see that your player will move in a diagonal line along the slope, but eventually you should start moving purely left and right. When this happens, you have no-clip. So now you can just walk towards any boundary and you'll go out of bounds. Once you have walked out of bounds, you will no longer have no-clip, meaning you can't walk back inbounds. A few other ways to get no-clip is by standing at the top of a cliff and using a tornado, then slowly inching down the slope. Or you could have one player die on the slope and have someone revive that player from flat ground, or vice versa. This will give you no-clip, allowing you to walk out of bounds. You can also grab another player as a Beefy, then stand on top of a no-clip slope and throw or drop them, and this will give the held player no-clip. And finally, if you get teleported to a teammate that has no-clip will get copied onto the teleported player. Here are all of the spots where you can find no-clip slopes. The entrance to barracks, which is also apparent during barracks party. Getting no-clip from this slope is extremely difficult and may not be possible by shielding. Instead, you'll have to go into a 2-player game and grab Bipolar Bear. Then get one player to take damage until they have 11 HP or less. Now enter the barracks before Bipolar Bear mauls that low health player. This will cause Bipolar Bear to maul you after you've entered the barracks, where you can revive the dead player from the slope and get no-clip. No-clip slopes also appear 3 times in Home Castle and once in Castle Keep. The only known way to get no-clip from these slopes is by reviving another player. Thieves Forest contains one no-clip slope, and since it's not too steep, you can use your shield to get no-clip from it. Lava World contains 4 no-clip slopes, one after the Sandwich Gate, one at the start of the cliff, one before the volcano fight, and one before the Dragon and Sock Puppet fight. All of these you can use your shield to get no-clip, but for the first slope in the level, it may be easier to use a tornado or revives. Also, if you get no-clip on Lava World, you can actually grab the steering wheel without fighting the Dragon and Sock Puppet. Check out this video if you want to see how it's done. There is one no-clip slope in Industrial Castle. You can use your shield on this one, but it might be a little tricky. Instead, you might want to die on the spiked bricks and use a revive, or just use a tornado. You can find a no-clip slope at the start of desert. You'll have to use revives to get no-clip, but remember, teleports are turned on at the start of desert, so once you go out of bounds, chances are you'll get teleported back inbounds. Another no-clip slope can be found at the entrance of Flooded Temple. To get no-clip from this slope, you'll have to use a tornado. The most common way to do this is by first making sure that you have 0 agility, then walk downwards until your shadow aligns with this grass. Woohoo! Then walk right, but make sure that you don't sprint. Walk until your shadow is lined up with this step. Yay! Then use your tornado and move left for 1 frame. Then use your tornado again and move left for any amount of time. This will give you no-clip, allowing you to go out of bounds and even enter the inside of Flooded Temple without beating Marsh and Corn Boss. You can find 4 no-clip slopes in Medusa's lair, and you can use revives to get no-clip from them, but for 2 of the slopes, you can also use tornadoes. There will also be a no-clip slope at the end of Snow World where you can just use your shield to get out of bounds from it. And the final instance of no-clip slopes is at the end of the Painter boss fight. After you have entered the Crystal Room, you can go back to the boss fight room, and players 2, 3, and 4 will automatically get no-clip and be able to go out of bounds. The next method to go out of bounds is by utilizing Beefy drops. If you make a Beefy flinch, he will grab you once he gets close to you. He will then throw you unless you cancel his attack before this happens. This will make the Beefy drop you, and if you have good positioning, you will be out of bounds. So stand against a wall and hold up your shield. Let the Beefy attack you for 3 cycles to allow him to get closer to you. Then jump and use light, heavy, light. This will make the Beefy flinch, then use a bomb. The Beefy will grab you and then get hit by the bomb and drop you out of bounds. This works with every Beefy in the game, you'll just have to find a boundary to stand against. If you have 2 players and go to Flowery Field, have player 2 stand at the bottom of the screen and alternate facing left and right. You will notice that the king will get stuck. This is because he has gone out of bounds. Now spawn the first wave of enemies and stand next to the king. Once the king gets hit, he will fall off of the horse. Now hop on the horse and you will be out of bounds. Your movement will be pretty restricted here, but once you get to the catapult section, you can move more freely. You can also go out of bounds if you dig up the refined mace and bring it over to the catapults. Position the weapon so that you can grab it while in the catapult, then launch yourself at a low firepower. This should cause you to grab the weapon and leave the catapult. Now go a little bit to the left, and when you get launched, you will be flung out of bounds. Once you get to the ladder section in Flowery Field, you can position yourself at the bottom of the ladder and continue climbing on and off of it. If your positioning is perfect, you'll go out of bounds when you climb off of the ladder. But there is a consistent strategy for Baron Saracen, so make sure that you have 24 agility. If you already have max stats, you can grab a -1 agility weapon like the meat tenderizer. So first, stand at the top of the ladder and start climbing down. Now hold right and down until you climb off of the ladder and walk for a few frames. Then use your tornado and move down. Next, walk right. You should have climbed back onto the ladder. Now hold down and you will go out of bounds. On the parade level, if you jump at the top right of the carriage, you will go out of bounds. This is extremely precise, so don't be surprised if it takes you several attempts. Another way to go out of bounds on parade is to eat a sandwich right as the giant troll shoots his laser. Then hold up your shield and wait a bit. Right before this troll shoots another laser, jump. This will cause you to get flung off of the carriage, return to normal, get hit by the laser again, and be out of bounds underneath the carriage. If you eat a sandwich again as the troll shoots out his laser, but jump off of the carriage when you have a little more than 1 second left, you will transform back to normal and get hit by the laser after you have gone off screen. This will allow you to go out of bounds anywhere in the level. After you beat the giant troll, eat a sandwich and grab the thief. Stand in the top right corner and face left. When you have about 2 seconds left on the timer, throw the thief and hold up. Then when you have about half a second left, use your windmill attack. If done correctly, you'll be able to move during the cutscene and out of bounds. And if you eat another sandwich, you can even avoid taking damage at the end of the level. Right before you go on the elevator in Industrial Castle, eat a sandwich. Once the sandwich timer is low, walk towards the elevator. If done correctly, you'll transform back to normal right before you get on the elevator, causing you to go out of bounds. You can also go out of bounds in Alien Ship, but you will need 2 players and teleports disabled. So once you get to the second set of lasers, stand close to them, then use a sandwich and hold up and right. This will cause you to pass the lasers without activating the cutscene that starts the timer, giving you way more time to set up the out of bounds glitch. Once you get to the end of the level, have one of the players get ground tech on the steam vents, or if you have Bear or Saracen, get tornado tech, which will be much easier. Stay on the steam vent until you have 0 HP, then, without going idle, enter the escape pod. You will die right after you enter it, so have the other player revive you. This will cause the player to clip out of bounds. However, the player that got revived will be unable to move, greatly restricting the area you can explore out of bounds. So instead, eat a sandwich, then revive the dead player. This will cause you to Beefy revive them, which will make you clip to their out of bounds position without actually reviving them, allowing you to freely explore the out of bounds world. The next place where you can go out of bounds is during the volleyball match, and you will need 2 players. First, let the volleyball land on your side of the field and avoid hitting it. Then throw your boomerang at the Beefy. This will make him start to walk to the bottom left of his playing field. Now attack him with light attack so that his hit counter gets upped and he hits you. Repeat this until you drink a potion. This might make the Beefy run back to his spot on the field. If he does, throw your boomerang at him and attack him again. But what you want to happen is for him to start targeting another player. When this happens, make the Beefy flinch and get attacked until the Beefy grabs and throws the player. This will put you out of bounds on the enemy's side of the court, changing the volleyball experience quite drastically. There is a spot at the beginning of Medusa's lair where if you use the level 50 light, heavy drill combo, you will go out of bounds. It seems like this has a very precise setup, and I've only been able to do it once. Another place to go out of bounds is in Ice Castle, and this one is really easy. As long as you have a fourth player, when you enter the boss fight room, player 4 will get stuck out of bounds. However, teleports will send you back inbounds. It's also possible to go out of bounds if you revive a dead player that's already out of bounds, or if you jump on a mount that's out of bounds. You can actually go out of bounds in the arena game mode. So to do this, select the Beefy mode, then have one player eat a chicken and grab the other player. Hold this player off screen. When the Beefy timer ends, the held player will drop off screen. But make sure this player is still slightly on screen so that he doesn't get teleported. Now have the on-screen player eat a chicken to get Beefy, then have the off-screen player eat a chicken as well, and have both of these players Beefy wrestle. Now just wait in the wrestle until the on-screen player returns to normal size, then have the off-screen player hold left. This should drop the held player out of bounds, allowing you to explore heaven to your heart's content.
Aww.
And finally, there's a way to go out of bounds and back off Barbarian. Get into a 4-player game and cycle maps until you get to a certain snow world map. This will automatically spawn player 4 out of bounds on a water tile. You can hop off of this tile to go back inbounds, but you will not be able to go back on that tile. And while you're on this water tile, enemies will be unable to attack you, making you basically invincible. You can even have all the other players leave the game to stay on that tile for eternity, but this won't work on Steam. When you die in a multiplayer game of Back Off Barbarian, a potion will spawn for you to be able to revive that dead player. But sometimes, on certain maps, this potion will spawn out of bounds, basically giving you a game over. So now you're out of bounds, but what can you do? Well, you can explore some, but the out of bounds world is pretty empty. You can also use level skips sometimes, like the Flooded Temple skip, but another great thing that going out of bounds can do for you is give you an advantage in combat. If you are out of bounds at the top of the level, slowly inch closer to the boundary until you can hit the enemies. Here you can attack them all you want, but the enemies won't even try to attack you. The only thing you have to look out for is when the enemies try to use an aerial attack, because these can actually hit you. So what if you go out of bounds, but then you want to go back inbounds? Well, normally, teleports will send you back inbounds, but what if you have teleports disabled? Well, there are still some ways to go back in bounds. If there are any Beefies around, you can get them to grab and throw you, which will send you back in bounds. Or, if you get to any cutscenes that make you walk to a certain point in the level, you will automatically walk in bounds. Also, if you're on any level that has a ladder in it, you can climb up the ladder to go back in bounds. You can also get in bounds by moving at the top of the cliff in Thieves Forest, or by moving around this slope in Lava World. And finally, if teleports are on, but you're in a multiplayer game with all players out of bounds, you can have some of these players die, which will make them get teleported back in bounds. And once there's only one player left out of bounds, he will get teleported in bounds too. It turns out that players aren't the only ones that can go out of bounds. Enemies can too. It's possible for enemies to get no-clip and walk right out of bounds. If you grab an enemy as a Beefy and then stand on a no-clip slope and throw them, they will get no-clip. When you fight the volcano boss, you can go to the far left and kill fire demons until one spawns from the left side. This will cause the fire demon to spawn on a no-clip slope, giving it no-clip and allowing it to go out of bounds. And while the fishmen are walking down the stairs in Medusa's lair, you can attack them, which will give them no-clip. Another way to make enemies go out of bounds is by dropping them out of bounds as a Beefy. So if you grab an enemy, you can hold them against a boundary, then wait until your timer ends. This will cause you to drop the enemy out of bounds. This even works on humanoid bosses like Bear Boss, Conehead Groom, and Necromancer. However, the Groom will just go back inbounds when he plays his organ. You can also do this to other players in the arena and when you fight for princesses. If there is a mount around, you can position the mount on one side of a boundary and an enemy on the other. Then jump off of the mount and back on. This will cause the enemy to run right out of bounds to get on the mount. Then trample the enemy with your mount to keep the enemy out of bounds. However, the enemy will go back inbounds as soon as you jump off of your mount again. There is a very rare instance in Thieves' Forest when the enemies spawn at the river where one of the thieves will unexplainably go out of bounds. When fighting the bear boss, he will always have 3 extra bears fighting alongside him. When these bears die, a new one will spawn in, but sometimes the bears will spawn in this dome where the boundary dips down a bit. When this happens, the bear will be out of bounds. After you beat the first antlion in desert, scorpions will start to spawn from the left and right. Now if you go back to the beginning of the level, you will see that the scorpions will be spawning out of bounds in the water. If timed perfectly, you can shoot a projectile at the Saracen right as he enters the sandcastle. This will knock him off of his camel right after he goes out of bounds. And now you can even take his camel from him to get yourself out of bounds too. About halfway through Marsh, a Marsh Trooper will A snaky will come out of his house and attack you, but if you can hit this enemy right as he's leaving his house, he will get stuck out of bounds. Once you've beaten the first 3 waves of cultists and you've made it to the boss select room, you can run back to the left and go all the way to the beginning of the level. And you should notice that one of the cultists will have spawned out of bounds in some degree. When you're fighting the undead Cyclops, sometimes he will run to the far right to shoot his fireballs at you. When this happens, run to the top of the screen. This will put the boss out of bounds. Then when he lets the undead Conehead Groom out of the coffin, he will be out of bounds too. However, the Cyclops will go back inbounds when the stomp attack phase ends and he goes to swing his casket at you. While fighting the first wave of the Necromancer, have one player stand at the far left. Then when you beat the first wave, walk away from this player. This will cause the screen to zoom out right as the Necromancer spawns the next wave, which will temporarily unlock the camera. Now run to the far left and the Necromancer will start to spawn a bunch of the enemies out of bounds. When fighting enemies in the arenas, they will run out of a doorway and into the battlefield. But if you throw your boomerang at these enemies as they are entering the field, they will get stunned and stuck out of bounds. And in very rare cases, the enemies will jump before they go through the doorway, getting themselves stuck out of bounds without needing a boomerang. So now that you know about all of these ways to go out of bounds, I'll show you a bunch of ways to go off screen. But you should know, teleports will affect you when you are off screen, so you might want to disable them before attempting any of these methods. So if you do the same steps to get a Beefy to drop you out of bounds, but stand against a screen boundary, the Beefy will drop you off screen. Another way to go off screen is by using mice flight. If you are already off screen and you start to use a levitation combo like light heavy heavy, the camera will rise in the air and follow you. When this happens, you can simply fly right off screen. But you can also get mice flight without having to already be off screen. If you jump off of a cliff and start to levitate, you'll get mice flight. All of the known spots you can do this include the giant cliff in Thieves' Forest, the cliff at the end of Tallgrass Field, using the ladder glitch in Flowery Field and the drop at the end of Flowery Field, the ledge near the end of Lava World, and when using the ladder glitch in Full Moon. To do this glitch, stand at the top of the ladder, then use light heavy heavy and move downwards at the same time. This will give you the ladder glitch. If there's a cutscene that forces you to walk somewhere, you can eat a sandwich then enter the cutscene when you have about 1 second left. When the timer ends, you will have control over your player. Now run against the screen border and you should go off screen. If you're on a level with a mount in it, you can place the mount in a specific spot, then spawn the next wave of enemies. Run back to your mount and it should be half on, half off screen. Jump on it and it will clip you through the screen border, putting you off screen. Now if you get teleported, then try to jump off of your mount, you will get frozen in the air. Or if you spam arrows when you get teleported, you will get super speed. When in a multiplayer game, you can stand at the bottom right of the screen and have your teammate stand at the top right of the screen. Then clear out all of the enemies and wait until you see the next wave hand appear. Then without moving left or right, have the 2 players walk towards each other. When they are close, the camera will zoom in and put both players off screen. Similar to the mount off screen trick, you can have a player die in a specific spot, then spawn the next wave and go revive your teammate. This will put you and your teammate off screen. Having yourself stand at the top of the screen and a teammate at the bottom of the screen, then walking towards each other will put you off screen if done during certain waves. If you get hit and killed by an attack, you can cancel the flinch animation with light heavy light, then eat a sandwich and land on food. This will give you an invincible man, which normally makes the screen lock in place. But if you do this in a multiplayer game, the screen will follow your teammate rather than you and your teammate, meaning your teammate can walk away from you and you'll go off screen. Another way to go off screen is to grab your teammate during a princess fight or an arena battle. Then hold them off screen until you return to normal size. This will put your teammate off screen. But now you can eat a sandwich, then have your teammate eat a sandwich, and start to Beefy wrestle. Do not press any inputs at this point because you don't want anyone to win the wrestle. The on-screen player should shrink down to normal size and the off-screen player will grab them. Now have the off-screen player walk away from the screen and both players will be off screen. You can actually go off screen by getting teleported. If you go out of bounds at the end of Snow World, sometimes you will get teleported all the way back to the beginning of the level and off screen. Or if you have two players out of bounds and stand still, teleports will slowly teleport you away from each other and then start inching you to the right. Stand still long enough and you will get teleported off screen. If you enter the Pooping Bear cutscene while using the light heavy levitation combo and slow fall, and you get far enough right, after the cutscene ends, you will be put off screen. During Rapids Ride and Catfish, flotation devices will float from the right of the screen to the left. If you jump on the flotation device when it is about halfway off screen, it will clip you off screen. You can go off screen by using the Climbing to Heaven glitch. Go to Pipistrello's cave and go left. This will send you to Tallgrass Field where you can now play the level backwards. Once you get to the turrets, destroy one and hit the other one 4 times to weaken it. Now continue left until you activate the wave with the Beefies. Throw your boomerang at the turret to destroy it, then kill all of the enemies except for one of the Beefies. This will allow you to continue through the level with one Beefy alive. Now go back to the cliff and stand in front of it. Block 3 of the Beefy's attacks, then jump and get hit by his kick attack. This should launch you onto the cliff where you can start climbing up. Once you get to the top of the cliff, you will continue climbing upwards rather than getting off. Keep climbing up for a while and you will get close to the end of the level, and eventually you will climb right off screen. And if you have teleports on, it might just instantly send you to the bear boss fight. Similar to the catapult out of bounds glitch, if you position a weapon on the catapult then launch yourself at a low power, you can move slightly left. This will launch you to the other side, but then the camera will fix on the catapults, putting you off screen and soft locking you. The camera on Parade shifts a lot, so as soon as you start the level, you can jump off of the carriage and levitate to the right. Then the camera will shift and put you off screen. If you get Invincible Man while on Parade, after you beat the giant troll, you will slide off of the carriage and get soft locked off screen. If you have 2 players, you can have both of you run in opposite directions during Pirate Ship. Then when the camera shifts, it will put you off screen. You can also get Invincible Man while on the right side of the pirate ship, and this will focus the camera on the left side of the ship, putting you off screen. When you're playing volleyball, the camera will fix on the ball rather than the player. So if you hit the ball, then run left, you will go off screen. You can even run all the way back to the beginning of the level and enter the sandcastle's interior. In a 2-player game, after getting to the bridge section in Ice Castle, go back to the previous room. This will automatically force player 2 to walk all the way to the beginning of the level, and for some reason, it makes using magic buggy for the off-screen player. If you do this with teleports on and with only one player, it will send you back to the world map. On Wizard Castle Takeoff, hold up your shield when you enter the cutscene. This will cause you to not walk to your designated spot, leaving you off screen. But if you decide to stay off screen, you'll end up getting hit with a lot of boulders. And finally, if you get Invincible Man while on the left side of the Necromancer's room, after you beat the second wave of enemies, the camera will shift farther to the left. So if you are on the right side of the level, you will go off screen. So now you're off screen, but what can you even do? Well, not much. Just about the only thing you can do is skip levels. If you go off screen, you can run to the end of the level and trigger the loading zone without activating more waves of enemies. Or, in Industrial Castle, you can go off screen to grab the telescope at the end of the level without fighting the boss. And that's every out of bounds glitch and every off screen glitch that I know about. If I missed any, please share them with me in the comments or in my Discord server. Thanks to my mom for helping me with the video editing, and thank you so much for watching, and figuratively speaking, see you next time.